My name is Kathy. 2 years ago, I married Samuel, a co-worker of mine. We got married 2 years ago, but Samuel and I had been dating for 3 years before that. Back when we were still dating, Samuel was a very kind and dependable man. My parents fell ill and died at the same time, so he was devoted to me and supported me through my depression. I was an only child, and suddenly my family was gone. I was left all alone. Samuel came to my house almost every day to be by my side.
Let's become a family together.
I was so happy that I cried when he said to me, I'm not alone anymore. I have Samuel. I felt that way after having been married with him for about 6 months. My in-laws divorced when Samuel was very young. Samuel was worried about his mother, who had raised him as a single parent. So I agreed to live with her if it would be good for my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law had been kind to me during our interactions. I thought that with my mother-in-law, there would be no problems. I realized that this was a big mistake. Soon after we got married.
Cassie, you've lived alone for a long time, right? Why are you so incapable of doing housework?
Soon after I got married, I quit my job and became a housewife. My mother-in-law tilted her head to the side when she saw the lunch I had prepared. I froze and said, "Huh?" absent-mindedly. My mother-in-law sighed and held her head in her hands.
You know, you've been working for a company, so maybe it's excusable. But now that you're a housewife, it's your job to do the housework. You have to do it perfectly. What is this? This food looks like leftovers.
The lunch that I made was a simple stir-fry of vegetables I had in the fridge. It may be a simple meal, but it's true that I was thinking that it was just lunch, so I thought it would be okay to make something that isn't fancy. But I don't remember making anything that would be called leftovers. I was so surprised that I couldn't say anything, and my mother-in-law started to attack me.
I didn't say this before, but now that you're a stay-at-home wife, you should be the one to get everything ready for Samuel to go to work. You should iron his shirts every day and put a handkerchief in his pants pocket.
But Samuel can do everything himself.
Cassie, I'm saying, you are a stay-at-home wife now. I'm telling you to do your duty.
My mother-in-law was a single mother. She had also been working for a company all her life. But due to her back pain and the fact that my husband and I moved in with her, she quit her job. That seems to be why she was concerned that I was neglecting my job as a full-time housewife. My mother-in-law had very high expectation of me as a housewife. First of all, I had to get up before Samuel in the morning and prepare breakfast. Of course, she would not allow me to cut corners in the kitchen. After that, I had to ventilate the house so that Samuel and my mother-in-law could wake up comfortably. I would then help Samuel to get dressed in a shirt that had been properly ironed. I'd also check if he had forgotten anything. I'd put his bag at the front door so that it's ready for Samuel to pick up when he goes out. After watching Samuel from the front door, I'd clean up and prepare lunch. My mother-in-law totally makes sure that I don't cut any corners. She strictly tells me not to waste money when shopping. If I'm out shopping longer than expected, she'd ask me,
"Where did you go playing around?"
I have to hurry back home because my mother-in-law keeps saying that. I make sure Samuel has something nutritious for dinner so that he will be energized for tomorrow. I also have to clean the bathroom every day, and I am the last one to take a bath. If Samuel gets absorbed in watching TV and take a bath too late, then it's troublesome for me. When I go to bed at night, I was not allowed to sleep until Samuel and my mother-in-law were asleep first. I'd make the bed for Samuel and my mother-in-law, and they would sleep there. After that, I'd make my own bed. This was the kind of work my mother-in-law wanted me to do as a housewife. Samuel was at my mother-in-law's beck and call.
You're a housewife, so you have to do this.
It didn't take him long to start taking me for granted. If he found even the smallest bit of trash in our room, Samuel would get angry and ask me if I had skipped cleaning. And if I didn't rub his shoulders when he was tired from work, he would get angry and say,
You don't look after me at all, do you?
He would glare at me sarcastically. I'd start feeling anxious seeing Samuel's face every day when he came home. I tried my best to do my job as a housewife, but my mother-in-law and Samuel were never satisfied with my level of housework. Every day, the bar was raised, and if there was even the slightest bit of mold in the bathtub, Samuel would yell at me for not doing my job. If I was even a little late for preparing meals, my mother-in-law sighs at me and says things like, You didn't do your work. You really are a useless wife. The most painful time for me was when Samuel played games and went to bed late. He would get angry if I went to bed before him, so I tried my best to stay awake. My body, tired from working from morning till night, was in desperate need of sleep. I once fell asleep and got a smack on the cheek.
You're a housewife. Don't go to bed before me.
It wasn't a hard slap, but it hurt my heart more than my cheek. But I remember that I almost cried. But crying would have made the sermon longer, so I said I'm sorry. I apologized right away, chugged some coffee, and somehow managed to stay awake. That was my daily routine for 2 years. More than once I thought it would be better to get a divorce. But when I thought that I didn't even have my parents anymore, I was afraid of what would happen if I divorced without anyone to rely on. I couldn't take that step. On the other hand, Samuel had gone to the trouble of getting a divorce decree for me. He showed me the divorce papers that he had already filled in and told me this.
If you don't do your work, you are out of here.
My mother-in-law boasted to me every day that she always did a perfect job of housework when she still worked.
I can get divorced anytime I want to, so get working.
I was obeying him with a hazy feeling in my head every day. Then one day, I received a call from my friends. It was a group of 4 people that I used to hang out with when I was in high school. They were inviting me to go out for dinner sometime. I immediately thought, I want to go. But Samuel and my mother-in-law were extremely opposed to letting me go out alone. I had to declare by what time I would be back home, even when shopping. If I didn't make it back by that time, he would say,
Where have you been skipping around? Who do you think pays for your food?
I couldn't even go out casually because I would be blamed. I was so afraid to even suggest that I wanted to go out with my friends. I was torn between wanting to go and not wanting to get yelled at. I typed, I'm going, into my phone, but erased it. I remember the days of being yelled at for not doing my chores and being locked in the basement for hours. I couldn't choose to go out with my friends because I was too afraid of being yelled at for not being able to do my chores. I'm sorry. They will get angry if I go out with my friends. I replied, then sobbed quietly to myself. I was so afraid that my whole life would be in total darkness. I was so afraid of this that I could not stop crying. A few days later, Samuel, who was going on a business trip, ordered me to buy a gift for his friend. I was allowed to go out for a longer shopping trip than usual. I said to my mother-in-law, I'm off, and told her when I would be back. This was to be the beginning of a change in my destiny. Samuel had told me which store to go to, which was a bus ride away. I arrived at the store, feeling deeply moved by the bus ride I had not taken for a long time. I was about to leave when I heard a voice call out my name. I turned around and saw a friend of mine from high school, who was a freshman at the time. Irene? Oh, it's you, Cassie. What's wrong with you? You've lost so much weight. You don't look well at all. Irene came running up to me, patted my bony shoulders, and looked worried. It's true. I've lost a lot of weight since I got married. Are you on your way home from shopping? Let's have a cup of tea and go home together. Well, it's nice to see you, but I have to be home on time or I will get in trouble. Is your husband off today? No, he has not. I told my mother-in-law when I'm supposed to be back. She gets really mad if I don't come home on time. I have to take in the laundry, and after that I have to make sure the ironing is done. She gets mad at me if I don't make dinner. She's always getting mad at you, huh? Yes, I'm always getting yelled at all the time. When I couldn't chuckle properly and just smile subtly, I thought, hey, when was the last time I laughed? Irene thought for a moment and gently gripped my hand. Let's have tea after all. How's life been, Kathy? We're all worried about you. If she gets mad at you, I will go home with you. Oh, Irene took me to a cafe, and I looked at the clock on the wall. I was fidgeting the whole time. Irene must have thought I was in an unnatural situation. She asked me in detail about it. As a housewife, it's only natural for you to do this kind of work.
You're an incompetent wife.
I had always been told that I was a useless wife. I told Irene how useless a wife I was. Irene listened to me without saying a word, and before I knew it, her voice was choked with tears. Cassie, you should leave. You should get a divorce. But my parents are dead, and I don't have anyone I can depend on anymore. That's rude. You are saying I can't be depended on? What? I said in a stupid voice. Irene, smiling at me, looked like an angel at that moment. You can count on me. Get a divorce. It's okay to take revenge lightly. I will definitely protect you. At that moment, I felt like I had found the light at the end of the dark tunnel. The dark cloud that had been hanging over my head lifted. I felt as if a ray of sunlight had shone through. I felt so refreshed. I talked with Irene for a while after that. I bought Chinese food for dinner and went home. Naturally, Summer and my mother-in-law were furious with me. I felt neither sad nor horrified. That evening, I prepared Samuel's luggage for his business trip the next day. He was going on a 3-day trip, so I should have packed enough clothes for him. I only put in one pair of underwear. I also put a cup of bottled drink inside to give it some weight. The next morning, Samuel left for his business trip with it without any questions. I was deeply moved to think that this was the last time I would see Samuel. Farewell. I said a few words to Samuel's drinking bag. I took the carry-on bag I had packed for myself. I entered my mother-in-law's room without knocking. I'm not allowed to enter my mother-in-law's room except for cleaning. My mother-in-law glared at me sharply and seems to notice that I was carrying a large bag. She looked at me suspiciously. Gina, I have tried very hard to be a housewife, as I believe it was my duty. But I'm not a slave to you and Samuel. 2 years in this house has driven me insane. I'm awake now, and I'm going away.
It sounds like you are telling the truth about being lazy. What are you talking about? Get on with your day's work.
I won't listen to you anymore. I'm divorcing Samuel, so from now on, we'll be strangers. Then I showed her the divorce decree. I think she finally realized the gravity of the situation. Samuel's been talking a lot about this.
I can divorce you anytime.
Samuel's signature was the only thing on it, but now it is signed by me.
Kathy, did you talk to Samuel? I can't believe you are suddenly divorcing him.
My mother-in-law was more confused and angry. I suppose it must have been a terrible blow to her to lose me, her slave. I found it strangely exasperating, and I was all smiles. Well then, I said cheerfully, and left my mother-in-law's room.
Wait a minute! I won't allow you to divorce without my permission.
There's no rule that says I need your permission. I'm an adult and a human being.
Who's going to do the housework from now on?
As I put on my shoes at the door, my mother-in-law stood in front of me with a desperate look on her face, which made me laugh. I don't know anything about that. I'm already a stranger to you and your son. Goodbye. I pushed my mother-in-law out of my way and go out the front door. Irene was waiting for me in her car. My mother-in-law is looking at me like she's in a daze. Oh, you must be the mother-in-law who has been bullying Kathy, the one we've heard so much about.
Who are you?
I'm a friend of Kathy. I'm a lawyer. Kathy has decided to get a divorce. She's going to file for alimony, etc. So please be prepared. Yes, actually, Irene is a very accomplished lawyer. She's going to mediate between me and Samuel, and she's working to make sure that I get paid for everything that I've been through. I went inside Irene's car, lowered the window, and gave a big wave to my mother-in-law. Goodbye. Please tell Samuel to get a wife he can use this time. Irene started driving, just as I cheerfully said my parting words. My mother-in-law stood in front of the house with her jaw open. I was enjoying watching her getting smaller and smaller. Once we arrived, I filed the divorce papers. I was invited to stay at Irene's house that night. Samuel's luggage was mostly bottled drinks. It was only at night that he noticed that there was only one pair of underwear in his luggage. He bombarded me with messages and phone calls. I answered the phone as Irene listened.
Hey, there's only one pair of underwear in there. And what the hell? You put all those plastic bottles in there.
I just wanted some final revenge.
What?
We are divorced, so we are strangers now. Today, I signed and filed the divorce papers that you've been showing me over and over again.
What are you talking about?
Samuel's voice sounded so confused. Irene is giggling. I also felt very refreshed with this sense of freedom. So I said my goodbyes to Samuel. It would be nice if you can find another wife who won't take revenge or divorce on her own like I did, wouldn't it? From now on, you will be speaking to my lawyer. I'm so happy and excited to know that I will never have to see Samuel's face again. Bye. It was fun when we were still dating. Samuel was still fussing on the other end of the phone. I hung up and blocked his number. Later, I received a large sum of money and half of his property thanks to my lawyer Irene. I wanted to rent a house with the money I received. It's better to get a job first, you know. Irene advised me to find a job first, so I started my job search. After I found a job, I thanked Irene and started living alone. Summer and my mother-in-law were very angry that they had no one to do their chores now that I was gone. Summer was wearing a really sloppy shirt. Maybe he couldn't even iron them himself. Irene laughed in amusement. Now that I have a fresh start in life, I'm so happy. When I think about my marriage, where I had to take orders all the time, I realize how great it is to be able to make my own decisions. I am so glad that I was able to meet Irene again at that time. We still go out to eat together frequently, and I'm very grateful to Irene for that.